Will Kirkendall. I'm a mindfulness educator with MCPS. I am so happy that you're joining me today as we are building our mindfulness toolkit. Today, we will be exploring and talking about just this whole idea of how to communicate or communicating mindfully as we move through our lives. How do we communicate mindfully? How can we improve our communication when there's a conflict in our relationships, whether those relationships are with our parents, our siblings, our friends, our teachers, anyone? How can we do this? How can we live more mindfully? So think about that for a minute. But before we start, I want us to just kind of warm up the body a little bit. Today, I am actually seated at my desk. So I'm in a chair. I'm just going to sit up just a little bit tall. I'm going to just come forward in my chair a little bit so that my feet are solid on the floor. I'm going to make sure my knees are over my ankles. Maybe just take a moment to roll back my shoulders, make sure my spine is nice and straight, and just take a moment to feel the body, really connect with my breath and center myself. I'm going to use the tool of breathing to help me to focus, to help to calm, and to help me relax a little bit. So just close the eyes, or as always, you can just gaze downward, looking towards the floor, looking towards the rug, whatever's beneath you. And just take a moment to breathe. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out of the nose. Last time, inhale. Exhale. Awesome. Awesome. All right, let's just take a moment. Let's stand up. We're going to come to a nice standing position. I'm just standing tall. Just going to take a moment. Take a moment, open your legs. My legs are just hip-width distance apart, and I'm just going to stand tall. This would be considered mountain pose as we're thinking about how to communicate mindfully. Just take a moment to really connect with your strength. Mountains are strong. And to connect with your balance. Really connect with the soles of your feet, the left and the right sides of your body. Nice. Maybe stretch the arms over the head. There we go. And I'm just going to stretch to the left. Coming back to my center, stretch the body up, stretch to the right. Feels good. Coming back to the center, stretch, reach for the sky. There we go, hugging my elbows, hugging my ears. And I'm gonna stretch to the left. Nice. Last time, coming to the center, stretching my spine, lengthening my spine, stretch to the right. Nice. Coming to the center, and down, and shake the hands out, maybe move the shoulders. Remember to smile. I feel better just moving some energy around so that I can really focus and really connect with my body, really connect with my mind, really connect with my breath. All right, so again, today our lesson is focused on how can we use the tools of mindfulness to help us when we are in a moment. Have you ever had like a really bad conversation with a really good friend or a disagreement? You know, when we talk about a bad conversation, a disagreement. And sometimes when we're angry, we might say things that we don't mean, because we want to win the fight. And so how can we, during those moments, just take a pause, to help us to improve our communication, even when we are experiencing anger, fear, trepidation, any angst, you're feeling really anxious. So let's explore that a little bit. So what are some characteristics of a healthy and a supportive relationship? Now, this is whether it's a relationship with your parents, or maybe your parents and their children, or between friends, between students and teachers, any type of relationship you can pick and you can choose. So we mentioned earlier, what happens when there's a conflict in that relationship? And it happens to all of us. We're all human. We have good days, we have bad days. But what happens? What are some healthy and some positive ways to communicate during that conflict versus some of the unhealthy or destructive ways that we use to communicate? So what are some healthy things that we can do when you're having a disagreement? Would you, what are some things that we could do? Practicing awareness, maybe practicing the skill that we talked about in another one of our lessons, and a tool that's in our toolbox, empathy. How can we practice empathy when we are having a disagreement? By reminding ourselves that the person that we're disagreeing with probably has the same thoughts that we're having. They want to be happy, they want to feel safe, and they want to feel respected. So just that, creating, that empathy, just by taking a moment to pause, right? And I also want you to think, to keep a relationship healthy, is sometimes being able to communicate mindfully is a really helpful tool. Just by taking, like I said, just by taking that moment to take a deep breath, even in the midst of a conversation. Inhale, exhale. And this can kind of help us to avoid saying those really mean things, the things that we say just because we want to win the argument. We may not even mean it. It's really, really mean. It's going to make the person feel really, really bad. And it's literally like we're having a verbal war, right? So, and oftentimes those are those discussions that later, you think about it and you really regret it. You really regret hurting your friend, or saying, something that's really out of order to your parents, or, saying something that you really didn't intend to say to a teacher. Had a full-blown, conflict. So today, there is a possible solution. We're going to practice an exercise that will help us to, and it's going to teach us how to take a pause, so we can communicate more positively, even when our emotions are really, really high. And this is a tool that, of course, like anything else in life, we have to practice. And practice, what do they say? Practice makes perfect. So just think about that. So again, I am going to sit up nice and tall. I'm going to just take a moment. We're going to, if you're comfortable, close our eyes, or just, again, gaze downward, whatever makes you feel good. And I want you just to take a moment as you settle in to begin to think about a conflict that you've had with someone recently. Again, it could be a friend, a family member, or a classmate. So allow yourself. My eyes are closed. Visualize that conflict. Allow yourself to feel the emotions that come with that conflict. See how the conflict started. What did you say? What did she say? What did he say? What were the comments that were made? Can you see the connection? Can you see how each comment led from one to another? Can you recall your feelings during the conflict? The anger you may have felt. Just take a moment, allow yourself. Remember, mindfulness gives us an opportunity to explore ourselves, to become aware from the inside out. So take a moment, take that journey within yourself. We're visualizing, we're experiencing that conflict with that family member, with our friend, with our sibling. Now, keeping your eyes closed or continuing to gaze downward, turn your attention to your breath. Notice that your breath maybe has deepened, maybe has grown longer. So inhale, feel that expansion. Exhale, release, let it go. This can be natural for our breath to do when we're observing it. Just let yourself go. Use your breath. Continue to feel your breath as the air naturally moves in. Notice your tummy. Notice your diaphragm, in and out. Just noticing each inhale and exhale from the beginning to the end. Take your time. Allow yourself this experience in this moment. And just knowing that when we fully focus on the breath, we are breathing mindfully, bringing that awareness to our breath. And we could call this just taking mindful breaths, just being aware. Noticing how you feel in your body, using your breath. Inhale, expand, exhale, release, let go. Now, in the beginning, when I asked you to think of a recent conflict, you may have felt first kind of angry. You may have felt, I don't know, maybe there could have been clenching in your hands, or maybe a tinge in your shoulders. Just take a moment. Now that you've taken a pause, think about how you might have changed the interaction with this person. We're still focused on that conflict. How could you have communicated your thoughts in a more constructive way? Inhale. Exhale. Just knowing that responding to the person with a calmer tone may have, we don't know for sure, but may have changed the interaction. Visualize. Just being mindful, just noticing. Using I statements such as I feel, or I want, or I think can also be a less hostile way to communicate than, how we are when we use you did this, you did that, you made me feel, right? So again, really simple techniques. Again, keep your eyes closed and just think about, how does it feel to change from that place of I feel, I am, and moving away from you are, you did, which makes the other person feel more defensive and less likely to want peace, because you feels like you did it, right? And it's like, I didn't do it, you did it. And it just escalates and escalates. And before we know it, we're in a full-blown conflict, and it doesn't feel good. It's not good for the mind. It's not good for the body. It's definitely not good for the immune system. So Take time in this moment. We're still breathing, we're still visualizing, we're still allowing our bodies, our minds, and our breath to have this experience to see how it feels. I want you to take time here to think, how could you have changed the interaction with this person? As you inhale and exhale, exploring, whether it's the mindful breathing or reframing, moving from you to I. Just take a moment. Now take a deep breath in through your nose. This time we're going to exhale out of our mouth. One more time. Exhale. Now, when you're ready, gently open your eyes and take your time. There's no rush. Some of you may be thinking that this is a fine practice, but can you really use this when you're in the middle of an argument and a conflict? Is it really possible to just stop and do mindfulness for a minute or two? What you have to know is that you don't have to practice mindfulness for a minute or two. Sometimes you don't have a whole minute, a lot of time, but just pausing a second or two, just taking a moment to do a mindful breaths in the midst of that conflict. So it's and then starting again. One or two mindful breaths during a conversation is really, and we have to practice these tools for them to work, but it's really enough to help to bring us back to a calmer state. Again, when we breathe long and deep and just taking deep breath, it relaxes all of the muscles in the body. When our muscles are relaxed, our mind gets the cue. You can relax too. And as our muscles in our brain begin to relax, we're able to think more calmer, with more clarity, and definitely with more creativity. And that's when we realize that we have more tools available so that we don't have to go down the rabbit hole, right? So see for yourself how this can work. And I want you, next time you find yourself in a difficult decision, I want you to see how it feels to take 2 mindful breaths during the conversations. Each time you feel those emotions brewing up, you feel yourself getting, how it is, you're moving from yellow, which is yield, to like red, like I am really angry here. Take a deep breath, practice it, and decide if a better outcome, if that is a better outcome with this interaction. So again, being able to communicate mindfully when having difficult interactions with another is really an important, not only mindfulness skill, but an important life skill. And it helps to keep our relationships healthy. So throughout life, we know that there will be many disagreements with others, but being able to practice mindfulness during these times of difficult communication gives you a better chance at solving the disagreement before it gets out of hand. So I hope that you enjoyed your tool of communicating mindfully, knowing how and when to incorporate your mindful breaths. And remember, you don't need a whole hour to meditate. You just need a moment or two to take a deep breath in, to exhale out, to inhale in, and to exhale out. So let me know how it goes, and I hope that you've enjoyed today's segment, Communicating Mindfully 365. Thank you again for joining us today.